I'm Elizabeth, 31. Standing in the grand lobby of Athena on Fifth, the opulent chandeliers above casting a warm, golden glow on the polished marble floors, I can still feel the sting of the words that were thrown at me earlier. My sister, Lily, 27, with her sleek, platinum, blonde hair and a haughty expression, blocked my way with a sneer. "You can't afford to be here, Elizabeth. Just leave," she spat. Behind her, my mother, Margaret, 58, a woman always dressed in the finest silk and pearls, approached and whispered sharply, "Don't make a scene tonight. It's your father's 65th birthday. Don't embarrass him." The irony was like a bitter pill. This was my hotel, the fruit of my blood, sweat, and tears. I'd built it from the ground up, yet here I was, treated like an outsider at a party held in my own establishment. But I held my head high and smiled, not because it didn't hurt, but because I knew the tables were about to turn. Just then the elevator chimed. The doors slid open, and a tall man in a sharp charcoal, gray suit stepped out. It was Mr. Henry Thompson, my father's boss, the CEO of a major real estate firm in the city. His eyes scanned the lobby, and then landed on me. His face lit up with respect, and he bowed slightly. "Good evening, ma'am," he said, his voice booming through the lobby. In an instant, the room fell silent. My mind drifted back to my childhood. I grew up in a family where there was a strict hierarchy. My father, Richard, was a no-nonsense, traditional man. He was the head of a well-respected law firm in the city. He planned everything meticulously, even his own birthday party 6 weeks in advance. He expected everyone to follow his rules and attend family events in formal attire. My mother, Margaret, was the perfect hostess. She spent hours coordinating every detail of family gatherings, from the floral arrangements to the menu. She was always concerned about what others thought of our family and made sure everything was flawless. Then there was Lily, the golden child. She was smart, beautiful, and popular. She breezed through school with top grades, was the president of every club she joined, and was the star of every school play. By the age of 25, she had graduated from a prestigious law school and landed a high-paying job at a big-name law firm in New York. My parents were always bragging about her achievements at social events, in church, and even in Christmas cards. I, on the other hand, was the odd one out. I didn't follow the traditional path. I didn't go to grad school, work for a big firm, or get married young. At 22, I left home with 2 old duffel bags and a second-hand laptop. I moved to Denver and took a job at a shabby roadside inn. It was a far cry from the glamorous life my family led, but it was mine. I worked long hours cleaning rooms, serving coffee, and teaching myself the hotel business during the quiet late-night shifts. I never expected my family to notice my hard work, but I didn't expect the complete silence either. They never asked how I was doing, not during Thanksgiving calls or birthday texts. When Lily had trouble paying rent in her first year in New York, my parents sent her money without hesitation. But when I skipped Christmas to cover a staffing shortage, my mother told relatives I was too busy folding hotel towels. Despite the lack of support, I persevered. By 25, I had saved enough money to partner in a small, historic inn that was on the verge of being demolished. While my parents were posting Lily's career achievements on social media, I was negotiating with skeptical bankers and getting zoning permits. I faced a lot of doubt, but I didn't let it stop me. 3 years later, I found an old, abandoned building in the heart of the city. It was a dilapidated 5-story structure with cracked marble floors, a leaky roof, and overgrown ivy creeping through the broken windows. But I saw its potential. I saw a place that could tell stories, a place that could be transformed into something beautiful. I invested all my savings and took on a huge risk. It took 18 months of sleepless nights, countless meetings with architects and designers, and a lot of tears. But when Athena on Fifth finally reopened, it was a masterpiece. The marble floors were polished to a mirror finish, the velvet drapes in deep navy added a touch of luxury, and the brass details from a foundry in Chicago gave it an elegant look. The rooftop garden was a hidden oasis, and the wine cellar was stocked with rare and exquisite wines that I had spent years curating. The hotel quickly became one of the top boutique hotels in the region. Celebrities stayed there and Michelin-starred chefs dined in its restaurant. But my name never appeared in the press releases. I preferred it that way. I believed that the work should speak for itself. When I found out that my family had chosen Athena on Fifth for my father's birthday party, I was shocked. They hadn't even consulted me. I received a forwarded email from Lily, which simply said, "Dinner is at 7 p.m. sharp. Formal attire. Don't be late. Let's not make this about you." There was no "Hi, Elizabeth," no signature. It was clear that I wasn't wanted, just tolerated. I decided to let the situation play out. I called my assistant general manager, Sarah, and gave her detailed instructions. I wanted the Thompson room to be reserved, with top-tier service, custom floral arrangements, and my father's favorite bourbon from Kentucky set aside for the end of the meal. I told her to treat my family like royalty, but to say I was unavailable if they asked about me. As the day of the party approached, Lily kept making last-minute changes. She added more guests, changed the floral arrangements 3 times, and haggled over the per-head cost. My mother also called to confirm that someone would take tasteful pictures of the family and to ask if they could avoid photographing me if I showed up. "It's complicated," she said. The night before the dinner, I stood alone in the rooftop garden of Athena on 5th. The string lights swayed gently in the breeze, casting a warm glow over the tables below. I poured myself a glass of wine from my private cellar and sat down with a notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "Being underestimated has a price." It was a truth I had learned the hard way. I wasn't sure what I would do the next evening. Part of me wanted to make a grand entrance to show my family what I had accomplished. But another part of me knew that the truth would reveal itself in due time. On the night of the dinner, I walked through the front entrance, just like any other guest. The lobby was filled with guests in elegant gowns and tailored suits, holding glasses of champagne. The soft music from the string quartet and the flickering candlelight in the wall sconces created a magical atmosphere. I spotted Sarah at the check-in desk. She gave me a discreet nod and said, "Your family arrived 15 minutes ago. Your sister has already made 2 complaints about the lighting and 1 about the temperature of the wine." I smirked. "Of course she has," I replied. Just then, Lily stepped into view. She was wearing a stunning red silk dress, her long hair cascading down her back. When she saw me, her eyes widened and her expression hardened. "You're really here," she said, crossing her arms. "Why wouldn't I be?" I asked calmly. "It's Dad's night, not yours," she retorted. "You can't just stroll in uninvited." "I'm not crashing," I said. "I'm simply entering my hotel." She let out a loud, mocking laugh. "Your hotel? You're delusional. Honestly, Elizabeth, you can't even afford to eat here." That's when my mother appeared, clutching her beaded clutch tightly. She leaned in and whispered, "Don't embarrass your father tonight. We've worked so hard on this." I was about to respond when I saw Mr. Thompson walking towards me. He passed Lily and my mother without a second glance. When he reached me, he bowed slightly and said, "Miss Elizabeth, I didn't expect to see you here. Thank you for hosting us in such a magnificent venue." Lily's mouth fell open, and she stared at us in disbelief. My mother's eyes widened, and she looked at Mr. Thompson with a mixture of confusion and shock. "You know Elizabeth?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mr. Thompson smiled politely. "Yes, of course. We've worked together on several luxury developments. Elizabeth is one of the most brilliant strategists I've ever met in the hospitality industry. Her rooftop garden here is a wonder, and the penthouse design is simply outstanding." Just then, Sarah stepped forward and said, "Miss Elizabeth, the Winston Suite is ready for you. The staff is in place, and your father's favorite bourbon has been decanted as requested." I nodded. "Excellent. I'll join shortly." Lily looked pale and angry. "What is going on?" she snapped. Mr. Thompson turned to her with a serious look. "Are you family? Then I suggest you show your sister the respect she deserves, especially in her own establishment." Lily opened her mouth to say something but then closed it. She finally seemed to realize the truth. My father, who had been chatting with some guests at the bar, walked over. He looked at me, then at Mr. Thompson, and his eyes widened in surprise. Elizabeth, you know Henry?" I smiled. "Dad, Henry works with me on several projects. I own Athena on 5th and 4 other properties." There was a moment of stunned silence. My father sat down slowly, his eyes still wide. My mother stood there, her face drained of color. Lily just stared at me, speechless. As we entered the Winston Suite, the staff greeted me with warmth and respect. "Good evening, Miss Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to have you with us tonight," they said. The dinner was a strange affair. My father sipped his bourbon slowly, his expression unreadable. My mother finally asked, "Why didn't you tell us about all this?" I thought for a moment and then said, "Because for years, being anything other than Lily meant being dismissed. I knew if I told you about my business, you'd ask certain questions and make certain assumptions, so I let you assume." Mr. Thompson chuckled. "Your daughter's humility is one of her greatest strengths. You'd be surprised how many people take credit for far less." My mother blushed. "I wasn't trying to diminish her," I said softly. "You didn't need to try." As the dinner progressed, the tension in the room gradually eased. My father complimented the salmon, which was one of my recipes. When dessert was served, the servers handed out small envelopes with gift certificates for weekend stays at my other properties. At the end of the table, Lily finally spoke. "So, you've been doing all this while we thought you were still working the front desk?" "Yes," I said. "And there's nothing wrong with working the front desk, but I've come a long way." She looked away. "I didn't know." "I know," I replied. She paused and then muttered, "Guess I should have asked." I said, "You still should." After the dinner, most of the guests left. My father lingered for a while. He swirled the last of his bourbon in the glass and said, "I always thought you'd find your way." I replied gently, "You just refused to see where it led." He nodded. No excuses this time, just recognition. When the suite was empty, I returned to the lobby. The quartet had packed up, and the candles were burning low. I sat on one of the velvet benches beneath a gold-framed photo of the hotel's grand opening. It was just me, standing in front of the doors, arms crossed. Sarah appeared beside me and handed me a folded linen napkin with a small note inside. It was from the head waiter, Leo. It said, "Your family dines well, but you command the room. With respect, Leo." I smiled and exhaled deeply. Being underestimated had cost me a lot, but it had also given me the strength to build something of my own. From now on, I would no longer let their version of me define who I was. I was the architect of my own destiny, and anyone who wanted a place in my life would have to come with respect. Just then, the lobby doors opened, and Lily walked in alone. Her heels clicked softly on the marble floor. "I stayed behind," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard. "I want to understand how you did all this without us." I looked at her and said, "Because I had to." She nodded. "I underestimated you." I stood up slowly and met her eyes. "I know. Is it too late to start asking the right questions?" She hesitated for a moment. Then I stepped aside and said, "Let's walk."